Good evening and welcome to Confessions. I'm your hostess of light, Jennifer Watson. I'm an empowerment coach, new moon astrologer, past life reader, and author. And my mission is to provide a safe space for people to step into their darkness so they can shine their brightest of lights. And that's what this show is all about. Tonight we'll be talking about raising conscious children. This upcoming generation is more in tune with early enlightenment than ever before. And it's up to us as parents and leaders to help guide them towards love, awareness, and spiritual consciousness. So there's so many tools that we can use nowadays to teach our children all about having an open heart and open mind. So joining me to talk about this tonight is an amazing panel of women. Please join me in welcoming Midge Leavey, who is a preschool owner, mindful educator, author, and radio co-host. We have Dawn Krohberger, who is also a personal coach and an author of the novel Jack Out of the Box. And we have Andria, who is an intuitive soul healer. So each one of these ladies brings an interesting perspective to how to raise the consciousness vibration of children of the world. And it's such an honor to have these ladies with me on the show tonight. So welcome to Confessions, ladies.
Thanks,
Thank you, Jenny.
So are you ladies ready to bare your soul?
Oh, yes.
Awesome, awesome. So this is an amazing group of light. I love these women, and I think we're going to have a fun conversation tonight. So let's get started and talk about why is it so important to raise our children in more of a consciousness vibration. Andrea, why don't we start with you?
Well, the thing we need to realize is that now children are coming in at a high frequency. So it's really important that we are standing in our truth and we know who we are and we're able to empower these children. Because the new children that are coming in, and there are not many of rainbow children at the moment, there are only a few. And those children can see straight through you. They know when you're telling the truth, they know what you're all about, they know where you stand with yourself, and they will call you out. So they're a lot more telepathic, and they're even more intuitive than the generation before, which were the crystalline children, which have basically been here since the 1990s. And before that, the indigo children, which came in the late 70s, around 78. But there were some people in the 1950s that were indigo. And as far as crystallines, there were some that came in the 80s that were called scouts. And their job was just to come and check it all out before they were actually sent here. So most rainbow or crystalline children are also known as star seeds, and they come from the star system Sirius. So it is critical because the new children that are coming into consciousness, the rainbow children are called Christ conscious children, and they are here to usher in the new formats that will unfold in life here on this earth as we know it. So it's very important.
Very interesting. So, Midge, let's take it over to you. What is your take on conscious children?
Well, I have to say mindfulness is what children need today. They need to realize that they don't have to, if they make a mistake, it's not a big deal. If they don't have to worry about the future or worry about the past, that is like living in the present moment is huge because that takes away all of that anxiety and stress, and mindfulness is key to happy living, I feel.
Excellent, excellent. Dawn, how about for you?
Well, for me, Jennifer, it's self-awareness. So with everything that they have to look forward to in their lives, knowing themselves inside is so extremely important. We talk about self-esteem all the time, but we need to also understand that self-esteem really isn't what we're trying to measure. It's how well the child is functioning on the inside, not so much on the outside. But we put so much emphasis on what's happening on the outside. So it's really just going within and knowing who they are.
I love it. I have three very different perspectives here, and they're all on target because these children need all of this from a self-esteem issue to a concentration issue to, their spiritual side. And I love this diversity here. So let's get deeply into each one of them. So Midge, let's start with you and talk a little bit about the mindfulness education that you bring to the table.
Okay, so basically I started out as a mindful educator with missionb.org, as we discussed, and we did the Mission B thing through and went to the public schools. And when I taught in the public schools, I taught ages 2nd grade through 5th grade. But you can teach mindfulness. Actually, I taught myself. So basically, you could teach mindfulness from 0 to 100 years old, and that's what's most important. To learn how to be in the present moment, to learn how to breathe. I do presentations to teach parents how to bring it into their homes and to teach their children at home. And if they had an everyday curriculum, then they would have to do it at school and they would have to do it at home as well. And if they grow up with this kind of living, they would be so much far ahead, where they wouldn't have, like, you hear college students who are so depressed and so challenged with life and anxiety and stress and what if I make a mistake, what if I don't graduate, what if this, what if that, and they put so much pressure on themselves. If they could learn to regulate their emotions from now on, they would be so much better off.
What are some of the benefits you've seen from this? Like, have you seen a transition or a difference from children who are not using mindful practices to those who are?
It's so funny because I was hired to go into a home with a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old because she was having some difficulties with her children. And I went over and taught them mindfulness for 8 weeks. I went once a week for 8 weeks for about a half hour, 45 minutes, but I asked the mom to do certain things while I was gone. And she said one of them had trouble sleeping, that wouldn't let her away from them to go to sleep. And she actually called me and said, I cannot believe this, but your little tricks and everything helped her go to sleep on her own. When she woke up in the middle of the night, she did her breathing and didn't, go to mom's bed and stay there. So that was a big one, where she actually changed her sleeping pattern and sleeping behavior. So I've seen a lot of good things. I've seen, less bullying and self-awareness, and also not picking on other children because they become mindful of what they're doing and how their reaction is hurting other people, and all sorts of great things that come out of it, really.
It's amazing. Now, Dawn, I know that you also deal with mindfulness, and you're in mindful education. Well, you like to talk to us a little bit of that?
Sure. I think, exactly what Midge said. It's about being mindful and just knowing how to turn off the voices in your head. Really, it just stops us from moving forward because we just get trapped in there. I mean, the mind just goes constantly. It's just like the mental motor, and it really can stop us in our tracks. And it could do a lot of good for us as well, so we need it. But when we don't realize that our mind will just keep going and we don't have to believe, if we know we don't have to believe it, that's when we really can start analyzing and being aware of where the thoughts are coming from. And in that, we get to choose. And there's a possibility now because we're not just trapped in that emotion anymore. Now we can decide, how we want to feel about a certain situation, whether it's fear or anger or, just like that overreacting, however it is for us, we can just be aware of where those thoughts are coming from and how to control them.
Absolutely. Really, really important. So, Andria, let's talk a little bit about meditation as a mindfulness practice where, I know we've talked before about our children and getting them to meditate to get into that practice, which I believe would complement Midge's bringing it home. So, Andria, why don't you talk to us a little bit about that in your perspective?
Meditation is a wonderful tool. It can teach your body how to breathe properly. It can put you at one with nature and your surroundings. It can lower your blood pressure. It does all sorts of beautiful things for your body. But it also gets you in tune with yourself, and it allows you to move more easily through your day-to-day life. And that's the beauty of meditating. Now, when you're an adult, it's a little bit different because you can drown out all the noise in your day. You can, take a step towards your higher consciousness. You can get answers that you're seeking when you meditate. You can communicate with other beings. There's all sorts of benefits. But children have to learn this. So it's really wonderful when parents of conscious children are tuned in to the fact and are helpful to these children, because then they can guide them through this process or find the person that's most appropriate to help them discover how to work with these different aspects of themselves.
Great, awesome. So a part of meditation is, like you said, connecting to the self, which brings me to Dawn, who's recently wrote a book about self-esteem and how children need to connect with it. An amazing book, Jack Out of the Box. So why don't you talk to us, Dawn, a little bit about your book and the inspiration behind it and how you came to connect it to how important it is to teach children self-esteem from the beginning.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so my book is about a character who was known as Jack in the Box for a long time, and through self-love and self-awareness and self-esteem, he finds a way to live out life outside of his comfort zone. So the idea came to me when I was actually working with children in a workshop, a self-worth shop that I created, and I had children, and we asked them, questions about how I brought a Jack in the Box with me, and we asked them how they thought Jack felt in the box and how they thought he felt outside of the box. And these children share, and Jack and his journey as how he comes out of the box. And the box is just a metaphor for our comfort zone, and we all have one. And sometimes it's smaller than others in certain areas, and we don't even realize it's there sometimes. So my goal is for every child to know how wonderful they are and how much potential that they have. And I mean, if the book can show them that, yeah, it's scary sometimes, but if we really work through it, it doesn't have to be that scary all the time. So that's just the goal, to lighten up the world a little bit and know that we're okay.
That's a beautiful, beautiful story, and I know many adults who should also be reading your book as well. I don't think it should just speak for kids. It's such a great topic, self-esteem, and I think it's something that we need to bring to our children. So, Midge, Andria, do you want to weigh in on how you think we can, bring children that awareness of self-esteem from the very beginning to know that they're okay just as they are?
I come from a different perspective, I think, in that the work that I do as an intuitive soul healer, everyone is a beautiful light being. I mean, you started as a light being, you are a light being, and you end as a light being. So in my house, my children know that they are always light beings, that they're beautiful, that they should be confident, that there is no wrong answer. It's just working your way through life. So I don't, I foster my children to the best of my ability. So I really feel like parents just need to support their children and talk with their children. It's as simple as talking to them, weighing in, finding out what's going on, helping them negotiate, and to be, to grow up to be a beautiful being. That's all that they need to do.
I agree with Andria. I think the same thing. We have to be great role models. That's the biggest thing. Like if a parent is telling you, oh, you have to be beautiful, or you have to do this, or you have to be skinny, or anything. It comes from the home. It comes from people that you're around, and you have to surround yourself with positive people who love you for who you are and not what you look like or anything else like that. That's the biggest thing I feel too. So I think we are connected in that discussion, because it all has to come from a parent or someone. And I think a lot of parents need to gain self-esteem. I know as an adult, a lot of people don't have self-esteem now, and if you don't have self-esteem, how are you supposed to pass that on to your children? I think parents have to learn first.
Absolutely. And I think part of that also is that we follow under the guise that we want to teach our children, or we want them to have a better life than what we have. And so we project expectations onto them. Like mostly my generation was like, oh, you guys are the first to go and graduate from college and all that. So is there all that pressure that we must go to college to be some kind of life? And, even with my own children, it's like, oh, I want this better for them than I had. And, we project it onto them instead of taking back and coaching them through their unique personalities and, their inner desires and their hearts and everything. And so I think it's important, as part of being parents, is to have a consciousness ourselves, about who they are, and to allow that to naturally develop instead of us saying, well, the whole starving artist thing, you can't be an artist because you'll starve. No, my daughter, if you want to go be a Broadway star, go at it, girl. Give it a shot. I'll be here to support you no matter what.
I
agree. I think it comes down to that as well.
I own a preschool, as you know, Miss Midge's preschool, and I see it already at ages 3 and 4, where parents, first of all, are comparing their children already. So it's really hard not to compare your children when you're worried about, them growing or being academically ready for kindergarten or first grade or whatever it is. But I think that's one thing that we have to try to stop doing, is to compare our children to other children or even siblings, and let them be who they want to be. And I think that's a big thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in on that, especially having 8-year-old twins. I have boy-girl twins, and a lot of people are like, oh, they look things. They look just alike, or they're just alike. They're completely different children. They couldn't be any more different if they tried. And I've learned from mothering a daughter and son that are twins that you can't hold one to the other's standard. They have very different ideas of what they want to do and how they want to be and who they are. And you just have to love them and just promote them as a little one who's moving forward through this crazy life.
Well, let's talk about some of the metaphysical aspects. I mean, it's not just rainbow children and crystalline children. All children can benefit from different metaphysical aspects. I mean, people have a wide range of beliefs, from, just simply meditation and yoga as a spiritual practice, and some people believe in astrology, some are into tarot, or, there's numerology. There's all different kinds of aspects that parents can pass on as tools or to see what strikes an interest in the child. So, Andria, why don't you talk a little bit about what you've done with your children as far as tarot or other tools you may have used to help them connect to themselves?
Well, one of the things I have on my website and that I do as a practice is children's tarot reading. And a lot of people aren't, I do it from 3 to 10, ages 3 to 10. And the only deck that I use for this, and I'm just going to hold it up, is the Cherub Angel card deck from Doreen Virtue. This, in particular, is a great tool for children, and they're a tiny little stack of just, little tiny cards that are just so little. Children love to grab them because they're easy to hold, and they have the most beautiful pictures on them. Like this is one, for instance, perfect card for tonight. Believe in yourself. If you can see
that is perfect.
Pretty little card. And the thing about doing the readings is that when I or a child pull one of these cards, all it is a window into getting insight from the child. So it's your opportunity to take note of what you can learn from this child. And it gives them a ground where they can talk about the things that are important to them without feeling threatened, because it seems like a game, because, it's this beautiful little deck of cards, and it seems like a game, and they're happy to do it, and it's non-threatening, and it's just an easy way to get an insight on what's going on or what's bothering them or what they're thinking about. And it really can benefit the parents, because sometimes children shut down and they don't tell you the things that they think about for fear that it might not be accepted by you, or it's not socially acceptable, or they heard someone say this isn't the way we do things, or whatever. Right. So that is a great way to just to have a moment with the child to really tap in and see where they stand with themselves, and it really does help, because even with Aiden, he will ask for a reading. He'll say, I want you to read my cards, and I'll read them. And I did this reading a month and a half ago when we first talked, Jenny, and it was Say a Prayer was the first card, and I thought, well, my goodness, what on earth are we talking about here? It could be anything. So I pulled another card, and the card was bullying. And don't you know, that's exactly the subject they discussed in school with the counselor that day, and they put a poster up about it. And then he had an incident at lunch where he felt bullied and on the bus. And so that one tiny little card brought all of these little things out into the open, and it was a great way to address them and give him confidence and give him tools that he needed so he could function and work with it and know what to do when this happens. So it really, really was helpful, and otherwise I wouldn't have known, because he would have never mentioned it. You know, he would have just kept it all inside, and I would have gone on, and he would have gone on, and we would have never mentioned it. But
similar to you, I have little children's animal spirit cards.
yes, yes.
And they each animal like represents something like oh gosh, I don't even remember right now. But one represents be courageous, and they're little baby messages. So my kids love just like picking an animal of the day, and you know, it's a little message for them that they loved it so much that they realized some animals were missing from the deck, and they drew their own cards, and they decided what messages the alligator was going to be, and they created it and put it in. And I think I see the value in it is that it opens the door to communication, because I know with my son in particular, he doesn't know how to word things.
Yes.
And he doesn't know how to speak what's on his mind. And like using these tools opens a door to be like, oh, I relate to that. Yeah, I could talk about that.
Yeah.
So whether it's happened that day or whether it happened 3 weeks ago, it still opens that door to talk about something that's on the inside that they may have questions about even. So I think it's a great tool.
I love that idea with the cards. I think I'm going to steal that idea. It reminds me of like positive affirmations. Like I'm big on the positive affirmations at the end of a mindfulness lesson. We will go through a mindful meditation with the kids, and then at the end it's like I accept myself for who I am, and I love myself and things like that. But picking a card and you know that you just showed with believe in yourself, I love that. And then it opens up a door to talk about things. That's a great idea.
So what else do you use?
And all the children seem to love the dream catchers. We've given them as gifts, and everyone hangs them up immediately. They love them. And so it's just a beautiful way to connect to spirit, even for ancient spirits that, you know, are still with us on this earth, the Native Americans. And again, we just got finished with Thanksgiving, so how appropriate that we're talking about this as well. But, you know, we do that. Everything connects to another way of being, another culture. It just rounds us out. It gives us the Egyptians, you know, it gives us the Native Americans, it gives us, you know, the Indians when we're meditating. It gives all, and I mean from India. So all the different cultures sort of come together and help us, you know, in our daily practice. And it's a beautiful thing, because not only do we take that forward, but we celebrate and honor cultures of the past, and it's a great way to connect them with history and knowledge, and it's just a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. It's important to, as you know, we get older and older and new generations, to keep ancient wisdom. No, I don't mean like us aging. We're fabulous. I mean, as new generations are added, like it's great to retain that ancient wisdom, because I was talking to somebody else about the same thing. We lose wisdom with each generation, and it's a way of bringing it back, because they knew what the hell they were talking about. Yeah. So, you know, staying connected is great. So let's get into confession time, where we talk about something to bring it to light, where people can relate and hopefully find hope or have their own breakthrough. You know, we're talking about raising conscious children, and I know we are all conscious in our own ways, you know, in how we raise our own children. But taking you back to your old childhood, knowing all the resources available today, what do you wish you had access to as a child that would help you achieve enlightenment or better self-esteem or more mindfulness as you were growing up? Midge, let's start with you.
Well, that would be my answer, to have known about mindfulness. I didn't even know what it meant till a few years ago, to be honest with you. I thought meditation was something that people did to just sit still and do nothing, and I said, wow, that sounds like not so much fun, so I think I'll pass on that. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go play volleyball while you guys do nothing. But as I learned about it, and I had anxiety as a child, and as an adult as well, and then my son had gotten it, as you know, so it's like just keeps going, you know. And I said, there's got to be something that I can figure out how to fix this or how to make it better. And I researched and researched, and it kept coming up, the mindfulness and the meditation of something to do. And like when we were younger, I don't know if you think so, but everyone thought it was kind of weird, you know? And it's more acceptable these days. Like everyone I know now is like, oh yeah, I go to yoga, I go to meditation. It's like totally fine. And I'd love to talk about it with people now, where before I felt people like kind of hush hush or didn't talk about it as openly. So I wish it was more open at that time when I was younger, that I could have known about it more, about meditation, about mindfulness, about you know, getting rid of those worries and living in the present moment and just enjoying like food. When you're eating, when you're dancing, instead of thinking, oh, I got to go home and do this in about an hour, but I guess I could have fun now, you know. So that has changed my life. It really has. And all creativity has come to me in the last, I don't know if you noticed from my Facebook page, but over the last 3 years, I would say. And that came when I started meditating. And all of my success came right after one another because it opened so much for me that my brain just, I don't know, creativity just flowed through me and I couldn't stop, and I love it. And it's amazing how it works.
Beautiful, beautiful. I can actually relate to that. I did feel that same pressure of like, is this weird? Like I'd watch my mom and, you know, she has these psychic tendencies and she said she talked to this person who's crossed over, and I was like, put her up some pedestal like, oh my God, she's magic. But like you can't really talk, at least where I was, you couldn't really talk about it. And I remember when I was little, I really wanted this book series. It was the Time Life series, Mysteries of the Unknown, and they talked about UFOs and all that. Yeah. And I desperately wanted these books, but I was too scared to ask for them.
Right.
And, you know, to this day, I still wish I can access them. I might have to go on eBay or something. But anyway, so I wish that if I allowed myself the knowledge and felt safe in that environment to explore that, like I allow my kids to ask questions about angels and guides and all that, and I let it rip. I said, you know, talk to me. That's where it is. It's that openness, more that support of asking questions about, you know, the unknown, the stuff that is really known but unknown. It would have made life a lot easier, at least for me as well, and not at the age of 30-something to be like, ding! Yeah. Andria, how was it for you growing up? Was it different for you, or you felt the kind of the same way?
No, it was different for me. Yeah. So it was different, and it was the same in that I'm in the place where I grew up, practically 12 miles down the street, basically. And but I've lived in Atlanta and California and sort of made the round trip, and I'm in the Bible Belt. We're hardcore here. There's about, you open the phone book, and my husband's from the UK, and the first time he opened the phone book and looked at churches by accident, there were over 300 to 400 of them, and he said, I don't understand why you have so many churches. In the UK, we have one, Church of England. Why do you need 20 million churches? So, the stigma of being consciously aware or spiritual or different or believing in extraterrestrials or whatever the sort of hang up was then, it's that part is the same. The part that's different was I started discovering this for myself at the age of 4. So the first thing I ever saw was an aura, and it looked like sunlight around someone's being, like their body. So when I went and told my mother, she was like, oh, you were just standing outside in the sun, and the sun was behind them, and that's what you saw. And I'm like, no. And she just sort of dismissed it. And, it's funny because here we are talking about keeping traditions and customs alive, and turns out that her great-grandmother, my great-grandmother, was a seer, and she did this, but I never knew it. And I knew her house seemed different because I could feel the energy in it, and I knew when we went to her house, my mother would take a seat right next to her like a student would sit, at a teacher. And I was only child, so I would just go out and play or go to a cousin's house or keep myself busy with their dog or whatever, and until she was finished with her visit. And a couple of months ago or in the summer, my mother said, well, your great-grandmother could do this, right? And I'm like, well, no, I didn't know. So for me, my wish actually is a little different. I wish that my mother had been aware enough or had spoken to her about it, or if she had seen this in a vision, that she would have told my mother, even though they were holiness and, very strict religious group for their particular church, even though they did this on Sunday and Wednesday and, practiced all week long, this is part of who she was. And I really wish my mother had taken a good look and noted that and just really said, okay, let me go sit you at her feet and see what happens with the two of you. Because that would have had a completely different outcome for me. It would have eliminated me going off and thinking what my real career path was for, 20, 30 years, and then coming back to it only because I had to. I had no other choice. It came and sought me out and really stopped my life in its tracks and said, you're going to have to do this. And so here we are. But that would have been, just having the parent that really recognized who I was, as a light being, as someone who saw these things and things happen to them as a child would have really helped sort out a lot of things in my teenage years and my 20s that I really didn't have to go through if I had had a guide.
Awesome. Ladies, thank you so much. So wrapping up the end of our show, what brief message do you want to leave with the world about this topic? Midge, let's start with you.
Be yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself when you make a mistake. That was my biggest thing. Every time I made a mistake, I'd torture myself over it, and I've learned not to do that anymore, and it's wonderful. And to just be open to new experiences, because that's why I got into the meditation and the mindfulness and all the kind of stuff that I love that Andrea is talking about tonight. Try something new every single day, and you'll be more worldly and happier, I think.
Thank you, Midge. Andrea, how about for you?
I just think if parents just, be open-minded and allow your children to grow in the way that's best suited for them. And if it involves spirituality, be a good steward for the earth and assist your children in learning just even basic things like meditation and earthing and grounding. And, even praying is a blessing for them. It blesses. People have gotten away from praying for food, and you don't even need to think of it in religious terms. Just set the intent of how it can assist your body and allow it to be received into your body. Just simple blessings. And
beautifully said. Thank you, both of you, and thank you to Dawn, who unfortunately dropped off. It was such a pleasure to have you guys on the show tonight.
Yes, thank you, Jenny. Thanks for having me.
Well, to learn more about these ladies, I'm going to be posting all their links in the video below. Check them out, learn more about Midge, learn more about Dawn, learn more about Andrea. They're amazing women, as you can tell. My name is Jennifer Watson. I am an empowerment coach, and you can find me at www.jennifer-watson.me. Thank you for tuning in this week. Thank you for tuning in this evening. Join me next week as I interview the amazing Pam Teague. She is a Heartbeat of Sacred Stone, and we talk about how crystals can heal us every day and our deeper wounds, and it's a really fun conversation. So join me next week. I thank you for watching tonight. Namaste, and embrace your power.